My chapter is about the construction of the Olympic Stadium and other sites for the Games. In comparison to many other countries that have hosted events like the Olympics in recent years, and where the construction of sites has often been accompanied by reports of human rights abuse and accidents, the process in Japan may seem almost ideal and error-free. But if you look a bit closer, you can see that working conditions in Japan also have some very problematic features that also reveal something about how power is distributed between employers and employees in the country. The example that I discuss is a case of death from overwork, or karoshi, which is connected to the problem of excessive working hours. Surprisingly, although there have been numerous reforms in recent years that have promised to address the issue, many of the changes seem to have had the opposite effect of actually legitimizing excessive working hours. Also, demographic aging, which is often believed to empower workers because it gives workers more bargaining or market power thanks to labor shortages, has so far had no measurable impact. And again, I think this can be explained to a large extent with the uneven distribution of power in Japanese labor relations. As a political scientist, I'm particularly interested in how the distribution of power affects policy and policy outcomes. I've been studying labor relations and labor market reform in Japan in comparative perspective for some time, and I think Japan is a particularly interesting case to look at because some developments are very difficult to explain with conventional approaches. And I think that the construction industry and the Olympic Games in Japan, which of course have some very distinct features, are nonetheless representative for how the power structure of labor relations impacts working conditions in Japan, especially working hours and wage growth. One could perhaps say that Japan shows what happens if you combine a coordinated system where you have labor and capital collectively bargaining about working conditions, but where the government hesitates to intervene, and where the capital side essentially enjoys a lot more power than the other side. This is very difficult to predict. Just before COVID-19 hit Japan, the situation on the labor market seemed rather favorable, especially to young workers who, according to surveys, also feel a lot more confident and satisfied with their lives than previous generations. So without the pandemic and the postponement, a likely scenario would have been that the topic of excessive working hours might eventually recede because employers are in such a tough competition for workers. But with Corona and its economic impact, it could be the case that the relatively good times are over even for the young workers, and that they, as a result, feel more pressure to accept harsh working conditions than before. And that could mean that the advantage they may have enjoyed thanks to demographic aging is lost.